So let's talk about the solution. Well, the number 5 way that I'm going to talk about to get into conference calls is by dialing a toll-free number for that specific country. So the way it works is there is a different phone number with each country. And you'll see on this slide here, there's actually 5 different numbers listed here, but all for Australia. The first 2 are different 800 numbers, but again, this is an international toll-free number. The next 3 are what's called local numbers. And the way that works is they call from their phone into these numbers, and then they use the exact same conference ID that they would normally be using if they had been inside the U.S. Some of these are mobile enabled, so we're seeing more and more end users on mobile phones, and that is another complication that you need to be aware of, that some phone numbers are specifically enabled for mobile endpoints. And on this example here, that bottom number for Austria has the M, and that signifies it's mobile enabled. Trade-offs, though, in using this are several. So there's a lot of flexibility for the attendees. There's multiple numbers, and that's important because if they're running late, they can get into the call when they're ready. They may not be ready, at the designated time. They might be 3 minutes late, and so they want to be able to dial in themselves. And to have multiple numbers means that whether they're on a mobile phone or this carrier or that carrier, doesn't matter because you're guaranteed a connection when those different numbers are on different carriers. However, there are some drawbacks, and one is that for some types of calls, you may want more of a red carpet experience, and that means that you may want to dial out to the participant instead of having them dial in. Use cases for this are staff meetings where everyone's internal or part of a regular ongoing call, and they know these numbers. They know which one works for them specifically. Okay, let's keep going. Number 4, the next way to get into an international call would be dial the toll number. So the account you have should have both an 800 number and a toll number, both. And the toll number does work all over the world, worldwide. Anyone can dial into that. The drawback, though, is that it's a very expensive call for your attendee. And so if they are partners or customers, typically not what you want to do. Even if they're internal staff in another location, this is going to be generally a much more expensive way for you to have them into the call. So we recommend other solutions typically for those types of scenarios. All right, number 3, have the operator call out. Send me a chat if you have done this one. The way it works is the operator is available to dial your call for you. This is very common in basically every provider, not something just exclusive to us. So if you've done this, you'll find that it's a nice way to go. You can focus on the call and do your talking and let the provider do, I say here, the dirty work, not really dirty work, but what you'll find that sometimes it can take a little bit of time to get people into a call. So all you should need to be able to do is press *0, and that would bring an operator into the call. That is an interruption, though. So one thing you might want to look at is doing it via chat, and that's what that graphic shows you down at the bottom, that even if you're on an audio-only call, so I'm not talking about the chat that we're doing now on this web conference, but even if you're on an audio-only call, you should be able to communicate with the operator via chat. And that way, you can give them the information over chat, and you can stay involved in the conversation that's going on. So the way it works is either by *0 or by chat, you would give the operator the information, the name, the phone numbers. We do recommend having multiple numbers just in case they get voicemail. This is a more formal way, and oftentimes that's a nice way to do it if you're a law firm, or some companies do research type of calls or client or prospect type of calls where they want a little bit more formality. This is a nice way to do it, to have the operator involved then. Also, if there's ever challenges, if you're calling, for example, maybe not the UK, but in Africa, sometimes in developing countries, people could experience quality issues. Well, having the operator involved can really help with that, because the operators have typically many different routing capabilities to connect your call, and they can also monitor the call. So this is, again, something that would be recommended if you've experienced any type of connection challenge in the past. Okay, let's keep rolling though. We're on to number 2. Number 2 is a Dial Me feature. So the way this works is that you should have a custom and private URL specifically for your account. So it will pull up a web form, and you can see, hopefully, I know it's a little bit small, but on this slide, on that picture, actually is my name, and I've got that circled. So again, this is a private web form just for you, and the person that is ready to attend the call simply puts in their name and phone number, and then click Submit, and the system dials out to them within seconds. Tell me if anyone has used this approach before in the past. Just again, send me a little chat. That'd be great. Interesting to see the different combinations that people have experience with already, or what may be new. So if it's new, heck, send me that too. I'd be very curious. It is a static link, so that means it's always the same. So it's nice if this is a recurring call, because you don't have to change it every time. And it works for multiple people at the same time. So if you've got a larger call, or a call with 5 or 10 people joining at the same time internationally, this is a great way to do it, because they can all do it on their own when they're ready, and even if it's at exactly the same time, that's a perfect way to get them in very, very quickly. It also has some other advantages, like populating their name right on the live call screen, if that's of interest to you. I do note here, and it was noted on a couple of the other screens, often people are interested if, who this is costing, whether it's costing the attendee anything. So I've put that note there, so you see, again, in this case, their phone is ringing from our system, so it's not going to cost them anything. All right. Again, some of the trade-offs, we've talked a little bit about them, but it's great, like I said, for large numbers of people. The other thing that's nice is that they don't have to remember anything. They don't have to remember the access code. They don't have to worry about which country they're in, and they don't need to remember the conference ID. So really nice from that perspective. Obviously, it is an internet form, so they do need some kind of connection, though. All right, we're working through, so drum roll, please. And the number 1 way of getting someone into your conference call is just to call them yourself. So you should be able, as the host of your account, to dial out anywhere in the world yourself on an ad hoc basis. The way it works is on our system, it's *1. If you're on a different provider system, it might be a slightly different code, but you should be able to do that as well. And this works great if it's last minute, because at any point during the call, even if you're halfway through the call, you can go ahead and initiate this. And as the host, you're in control all the time. And if this is someone that is expecting you and specifically you, then they hear your voice instead of having to hear different prompts of getting into a foreign system or speaking with an operator that they may or may not recognize. So this is a really nice way to do it. It is the most flexible for sure, and is good for a very personal level of communication. So, sometimes, though, it may not be appropriate, especially if you have a lot of people, because it does take some time. If that is the case, often we'll see the host having someone within the company do it for them, though, like an admin or something, and that way they can bring those people into the call for the host while the host is carrying on the conversation. So that's another way to utilize this technique. And you should be aware that it can take some time just because, the person may not be ready. They may say, hold on, I just need another minute, and then, you're kind of waiting. But for executive calls or sales calls, this is really a super way to do it. So with that, in summary, 5 different ways to get people into your call. Your calls should be, even internationally, as easy as they are domestically. We talked about dialing into either a international toll-free number, which is an ITF, or a local number. If you remember back to that slide, we had the different countries and different numbers listed for each one. That is available to you via a web page. So you should be able to have your provider customize a web page for you for the countries that are utilized by your staff, and only those countries. So if you have 5 countries, it can be an easy web form that's only 5 countries listed. And then that way it's always up to date. You can always dial the toll number. That was number 4, though that can be expensive for an attendee. The third was having an operator call out to them, and you can set that up in advance, or you can do that right on the fly, either one. A really nice way is to have the system dial out to them. When they're ready to join your call, they simply submit your web form, and they go right into the call. We really like that, and international folks seem to really like it as well. And then lastly, the last idea was to call them directly. And as the host, you can have the ability to dial any country whenever you want from the system, and that is a really nice, flexible way.